Welcome to this live session hosted by FAB, your insurance broker and moving to France expert. FAB is like your immigration GP. We're here to answer all your questions: visas, residency, healthcare, driving, taxes, properties, and much more. We navigate the complexities of France to help you embrace the French lifestyle you've always imagined. Although we are experts in the immigration industry and have been working in this space since 2015, none of what we say should be considered legal or financial advice. It is also worth noting that the immigration industry is an ever-evolving field, so things that are relevant today might be outdated or inaccurate when you actually move to France. FAB's main source of revenue is insurance through our brand, FAB French Insurance. Our main goal is to ultimately help you move to France, as we only sell insurance to clients applying for a visa, a residency permit, or those with a French address. During the session, you can ask any questions you want. However, we will not answer long questions to keep the pace fast. We also won't be able to address questions related to personal or very specific issues, but rest assured, we can get in touch after the session to either advise or refer you to one of our trusted partners. And now it's time to get this event started. Thank you for joining us today. We hope you find our answers valuable. Our greatest reward would be to be a part of your journey to moving to France. And hopefully, it starts with this session today. We will pause briefly to allow all registrants to join. The session will begin shortly.
Hi everyone, thank you for tuning in. I'm Fabien and I'll be your host this evening or this morning, depending on where you're logging in from. This evening, I've rewatched the intro video like you did, and actually we do have some legal advice for you because we're joined by Eleonore, if you want to turn on the camera, from Lexidy. So she's a lawyer, attorney, I don't know, and she'll introduce herself. And this time I won't forget about Nani in the background, who's gonna answer your questions. So you can ask any questions you want in the Q&A sections on this very chat box down below on your screen. So Nani is a fellow expat herself. She's an American, so she can answer your questions live when this is fast questions or you ask very specific questions. And we'll try to address as many questions as we can during this webinar. Don't worry, the questions we cannot address, we'll send a follow-up email so you can get in touch afterwards. But we'll try to answer as many as we can. So I'm your host, I'm Fabien, for those who are first-time attendees. Thank you again for joining. There's so many of you every single time. Thank you so much for the support. And again this evening, so I'm glad to have Eleonore from Lexidy with us. Eleonore, maybe you can tell the audience who you are and what you do.
Of course, thank you, Fabien, for inviting me again. So I'm a French registered attorney. I'm specialized in immigration and relocation to France. And I work with Lexidy. We are a legal tech law firm. We are focusing on relocation based in many different European countries. We have an office in Spain, Portugal, Italy, Greece, and France, of course. And we aim to provide comprehensive support on your relocation journey, from visa applications to tax consultation, healthcare registration, or even setting up a company in France.
Well, you're too humble, because the Eleonore is more than that. She's the head of Lexidy France. So you're talking to the boss tonight, or this morning again. Don't know where you are. Okay, well, so Eleonore, I'll try to keep this session like around an hour, because I'm sure you also want to dig into the apéro at some point. So I'll jump right in. So I had a few questions from also the audience before, but before we get started, as this is one of the topic, can you kind of briefly tell us, is it doable for like English speakers to get a job in France? But we're talking like, like a job with a wage or a pay slip. Look, being an employee in France, because it's the questions we get very often. Is it doable?
Yeah, I understand your point because France can seem a bit complicated from the outside, but the answer is yes, of course. But I would say that it all depends on the work type that you're planning to do. What we can say is that French people are very bad at languages in general, and they like to have French speakers, especially if you have to meet public, for instance, in restaurants or in shops. They would like to have a French speaker. However, for highly qualified jobs, I would say that it doesn't make a huge difference, given that you will find more people that are English speakers, and English is more and more a working language. And of course, if you work for yourself, it doesn't make any difference. But I mean, I've seen a lot of English-speaking people having regular French payslips and having French working contract. So it's possible.
There's a word I see often, a lot of wannabe expats, again, when they want to find a job in France, they very often are looking for a sponsor. So like an employer who will sponsor, kind of their visa application in a way, because that's through the employer that they can get a visa if they get a job. So like basically, is it difficult to find a sponsor? Like, well, you just told us it depends on the kind of job you do. But so what are the options? There's the work visa. What are the options?
There are a lot of them, but I will simplify them for you. So if you want to be an employee, so that's what we were talking about, and to have a regular working contract, either long-term or short-term with the French payslips, it is indeed necessary in most of the times, not always, but to have French employer that sponsors you. My advice is always to find someone before uh, applying for the residency or the working authorization, because the employer will need to ask for all these authorizations, do a lot of paperwork. So it's important to agree beforehand. So this is for the employee types, but we do have other employee residency permit that do not need the sponsorship from the employer. And this is the case, for instance, for the talent visas. The talent passport is a type of visa for highly qualified professionals or artists or people that are doing research that have very specific jobs. And for most of the employee type of talent visa, you do not need to have a sponsor. And it depends basically on the wage that you will receive. And last but not least, we have other options for freelancers or people that work for their own company. And in this case, of course, you do not need to apply for any type of sponsorship from employers.
Okay, so just to sum it up, to make sure, because my memory is closer to a goldfish than a human being, I suppose. But so the option is, so they have the work visa. This one will require a sponsor more likely,
Yeah.
or if they have some sort of a talent and or are you paying wage, they can go for those juicy Passeport talent, which is either highly skilled worker or artist, or you mentioned the third one. I forgot already.
Well,
Oh,
researchers,
research. Yeah.
company owners as well. Actually, yesterday, I don't know if you followed a little bit the news, but we had a new decree from the Ministry of the Interior, and we have more insights about a new type of talent visa, which is made for doctors and people that work in the health sector. So it's
Oh,
good to,
brilliant.
yeah.
Well, so yeah, yet another reason to come to France then. For those who listen who have a PhD level in the medical sector. Good, good. I have one question. I know you hate this one, so you can play the joker card, the wild card, if you don't like. But this is always a question that's burning on everyone's lips, because I think there's always a bit of a gray area involved. what about people who want to be working from France but remotely for like an employer in the US or in the UK?
I hate this question.
Yeah, I know you do. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
The answer is very tricky because we do not have any kind of law or any kind of regulation that is specific for remote workers. So it depends on each and everyone's situation because, as I'm sure you are aware, there is the famous visitor visa. To apply for this visa, you need to sign a document saying that you're not going to be working in France. And there is a sort of gray area around the facts of working remotely or not. So the important thing to keep in mind is that you cannot carry on any working activity from France. You cannot have any links with the French labor law market. So no French contract, no French clients, no French invoicing, no French employer, and all of these things. So in theory, working remotely could be accepted as long as you do not have any type of links with the French labor law markets. But there might be some taxes and social security implications. So it's important to seek advice beforehand.
To have a consultation with a tax lawyer, for example,
Yep.
one of yours.
Exactly.
Okay. And just to add on to that, because, well, I just got audited by the URSAF. This is a benefit of me being a member of the board of the URSAF. So actually, what Eleonore is and by the way, this is not a benefit. You don't want to be audited in France. But the problem is, I think, although those are intertwined, but like there is a difference between immigration laws and, like you were saying, social laws, like what we call the URSAF in France, or the guys who manage and supervise social regulations and labor in France. And so in regard to immigration, I think it's not a gray area. Like the consulate is happy when they see people who have a wage. That's basically what you're saying. They don't mind about that. But when they are in France, they might, the URSAF, for example, might say, well, you're working from France. Maybe you should be paying taxes in France because you're working from France. So that's why it's always a bit on a case by case basis. It depends on the situation, doesn't it?
Yeah, and also depending on the consulate, because since we have many different countries, there are many different consulates, and each of them have a little bit their own way of doing things. Some consulate, when they see people that are employee in their countries, ask for authorizations from their current employer.
You have some examples? Which consulates, for example, are tougher than others?
This happened recently in the UK. But it's, well, some other people didn't and applied in the same consulate. So it's a bit of luck sometimes.
I really think because there's always a bit of a tax risk. I mean, for me, obviously, I'm getting my fine at, like you don't want to get a fine and to get caught cheating. So getting a consultation with the tax lawyer. And by the way, we don't really use accountants for individuals in France. For those of you listening from the UK or the US, we use tax lawyers very often. I do as an individual, and that's usually what we do. Accountants usually are more like for businesses only in France. So that's why I refer on the tax lawyer that Lexidy has in-house as well. So obviously, I'm rooting for Lexidy's tax lawyer. You can seek advice with any tax lawyer, but like you just have the stars in front of you, so you can work with them, and they're brilliant. So yes, this is something that needs remote work. Basically, for me, equals consultation with a tax lawyer first. There's immigration, but there is that as well.
I completely.
The bottom line is it's doable then. One thing as well, just to make sure people understand the difference, because you've mentioned if you're working for yourself, which means like if they're self-employed. What would be the difference considering between asking for a visa as an employee, considering they'll be working in France? Okay, we're not talking about remote workers. Remote workers, let's say, potentially they can apply for a visitor visa. But let's say if they want to get a job in France versus if they want to be self-employed in France, what difference does it make?
Well, the process is quite different. So for the employee visa, first of all, as I mentioned, you need to secure a job offer before. And the employer needs to do a series of things. For instance, they need to publish a job offer in the on the French administration website, and prove that they didn't find someone that is suitable on the French markets to carry on your future job. Along with other documents, we have to submit it to a special French administration that will process the request and grant the working authorization. And once we have this working authorization, we can submit it along with the other requested documents, of course. And that's it for the employee visa. Then you will be granted a 1-year visa that is renewable easily from France if everything goes well and you keep your job. If not, you can always change it. For the entrepreneur, you do not have a sponsor, so you have to prepare the paperwork by yourself. You need to provide business plan explaining a little bit what you do, what kind of work you will carry on from France, how much you think you will invoice, things like that. It doesn't need to be very specific, but there are some certain things that need to be there. If you have some references, it's important to show that you have experience in the field. It's not mandatory, but if you do have them, it's always better. And you have also to ask for the opinion of another French administration that will examine your project and give an opinion on it. And once we have this, then we can proceed with the long stay visa application for freelancers. And before, the opinion was not mandatory for all the freelancers. It depended a bit on what type of job you were going to carry on from France. But since yesterday and the new decree I was speaking about, it's mandatory for everyone. So it's another step, and it's really important to keep it in mind because, well, I'm dealing with them on a daily basis, and it can be quite challenging. And you want to do things right before to the consulate.
I do not work for Eleonore, believe me. But yes, I always say this. When you're getting into the business types of visas, which are like the what I like to call the consultant type of visa, the profession libérale visa, or the entrepreneur visa, obviously all of the Passeport, talent, entrepreneur, and all the like, the rejection rates, we see that on the insurance side, the rejection rates of those visas is much, much higher. So, well, if you can afford it, you really want to work with professionals, again, people like Eleonore and her team, because it will massively, massively increase your odds of getting it. So I'm not saying it's not doable. It's not possible to get it done yourself, but it shouldn't be, but it becomes a bit of a discretionary process. And there are so many steps that it's very easy to mix things up. Also, there's something I think I heard you say last time, I thought was very relevant. When you get a visa that's tied to a job, or like you setting up a business, or you getting a job, I don't know, you're being employed at the RECE in Paris because you're very fancy and lucky. What if you change that job, or you want to change that job? Do you need to do another visa, or can you just like, okay, I have a work visa, I can do whatever job I want?
Yeah, that's a super good question, Fabien. I have this situation a lot with the talent visas because people get 3, 4, 5 years visas, and they change job and they don't do anything. And you shouldn't do that because your residency permit is linked to your working status and to your working contract, since you got this residency because you were sponsored or employed in a certain company. So if you change, it's mandatory to inform the prefecture, change your residency type, but don't panic. It's always possible to change from one visa type to another. We have a lot of situations, even from visitor to employee or visitor to entrepreneur. Don't listen to what you can hear or read online, because a lot of people say, no, it's not possible, but this is not true. We do that all the time. With any type of residency, you can change it, but it's important to be sure that you are on track, that you respect all the conditions of the next residency permit that you're applying to. But
Because otherwise the prefecture, I think, something we don't want to play the fear-mongering card. Like Eleonore was saying, it's completely doable. I mean, we see that very often as well. Again, on the insurance side, we see that people are changing their visa type and stuff, and it does work, and we see that often. However, like she was saying, you do not want to have changed your situation and not have informed the prefecture, so which are the guys who deals with your residence permit and stuff. Because then when you will apply for the renewal or your new residence permit, well, they really won't be happy with that, because then they'll see that your situation is not the one that you had before and you didn't inform them, and it might even jeopardize the chance of you getting the new permit or being renewed. So yeah, this is very important. Another thing, because what about students? Are they allowed to work in France?
Yes, they are. It's
On a student visa, I'm referring to. Yeah.
yeah, of course, it's inherent of the student visa because the students need to be able to get trained and to do traineeships and also short work contracts. What is important to keep in mind if you have a student visa is that you cannot exceed a limit, and the threshold is like the half of a full time. And it's counted by hours. So in 1 year, you have, I think it was 936 hours per year that you're
Well,
allowed.
that's a half time. Yeah, you're allowed to work half time max.
Time. Yeah,
Part
that's
time.
it.
Yeah.
So it's important to keep that in mind because you can get in trouble if you work more than that. I know.
And I think we have another type of visa which allows to work, which is kind of the French equivalent of the working holidays. It's the PVT, I think.
Yeah, it's the working holiday. It's for certain nationalities. So we have some bilateral agreements between France and other
Oh,
countries.
it's not for every countries.
No, it's not. And you have to check if your country has an agreement or not. For instance, the UK has not yet. I think it's in discussion and they are negotiating one, but we don't have one with the UK right now. And this allows you to study or work, and you can work full-time with that visa without having to apply for any authorization, any kind of sponsorship. But it's in theory not possible to renew the working holiday visa. So this is not usually an option that I advise to go to. Unless you really know that you want to stay only 1 year in France and then go back to your country. The only country that can renew it are Canada. And Canadians, they can stay longer.
Well, it means we love Canadians even more than the others. Okay. It's also a question. I've just seen the question in the chat box. It's also a question I've seen quite a few times. When people want to be self-employed or want to create a business in France, do they have to apply for the visa, move to France and create a business afterwards? Or can they create a business before and then move to France after?
Well, you can do either ways, but I advise not to create the business before having the visa. It's also very pragmatic because you don't know if you will get the visa or not. So instead of jumping in the difficult paperwork, maybe you can take advantage of the fact that you can do it later. What is important is to get the opinion on your project. Once you have this, then you get your visa, then you enter France, and then you set up your company and everything else. But it's not necessary to do it.
So it's more practical to do visa first and then incorporate the business.
Yes, that's the way it works usually. But I've seen people that first incorporate the company. That's not necessary. I like to keep things as simple as possible. And I believe that once you're in France, once you're already in the country, it's easier to get this paperwork done instead of doing it before applying for the visa.
There's just a very quick one. Ellie is asking, what are requirements for freelance nomads who work for themselves? I think we just covered that. It's basically get a self-employed type of visa, which is either the Profession Libérale or the entrepreneur one. Actually, on the same topic, and just to kind of sum it up, Christian was asking what types of residence permit, or let's say visa, because allow non-EU nationals to work as freelancers in France. So yeah, basically, if you want to be a freelancer or self-employed, so what are the options?
Well, you have either the Profession Libérale entrepreneur visa.
So Profession Libérale would be kind of consultants. Entrepreneur would be for more general.
No, it's the same. It's the same. It's just called like that. It's a very long but that's the same. It's for freelancers. But you also have the talent visa for company owners. And the main difference is that for the talent visa, you need to invest 30,000 euros in your project in France. But
Which
then
is
you
not
can
necessary with the other one, just to be clear.
yeah, which is not necessary. Mhm.
Okay. Okay, great. Just maybe you won't know this one, but might be relevant. Julie is asking, do medical doctors from the US have to repeat their medical training in France in order to practice? I think not, thanks to the new bill, but
I'm not sure. I'm not sure we should, because some professions like doctors,
which are
psychologists,
regulated.
others
Yeah.
are regulated, and we have very strict rules.
But I know you can reach out because I'm also on the board of the CPAM. Julie, there is someone who has the answers. Very simple. You can reach out to the l'Ordre des médecins, which is like the doctor's order, basically in France.
Exactly.
They will tell you, because I've had the case a couple of times, and off the top of my head, I think you can get an equivalent. The problem is, though, because of the nature of the job, you may have to be able to speak French. Like there is a French test, I think. It's not so, maybe not a medical test, but a French test. But I might be wrong. So to be taken with at least a few pinches of salt, if not buckets. Oh, well, I don't know if you know this one as well. For the working holiday visa, do you need to activate your visa this time?
No, it's not necessary.
Okay, good.
Since it's a short-term visa, there is no need.
Lynette is asking, I have an online coaching business where all my customers are US residents. Will I be able to apply for the entrepreneur visa?
Yes.
Typically, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh,
I've had a few coaches.
okay, well, this one's very, very interesting. Diane is asking, when is a visa required in addition to a passport? Actually, the visa is a page in your passport. And if you want to exceed 90 days in France and you're a non-EU national, then you need a visa, basically. Am I correct?
Yes. Yeah. Mhm.
So, and also just to be very clear on that, on those definitions, a bit of housekeeping. So the visa, what we call a visa is a sticker, a page in your passport, if
Right,
you like.
Mhm.
But the residency permit has many names, actually. Or it's easier in English because it has many names in French. There's the carte de séjour, the carte de résidence, but it's a physical card. So that at this stage, it's no longer a page in your passport. It's becomes
Yeah.
like an ID in a way.
Exactly, but this has the same legal validity. The stamp on your passport or the physical card, it just doesn't look the same, but legally it's the same.
Well, for those who want to learn a bit of French, VLS-TS, the acronym, the TS bit stands for valant, acting as a titre de séjour. So the visa is a titre de séjour. It's just, yeah. Okay. Okay, before I answer more questions, there's a lot of questions I see here around artists. And we covered this topic in a previous webinar with Eleonore about the Passport talent, but we can do a very quick recap here because you were giving a very good advice last time that there is different types of artists. Like there is the artist talent passport, but there is the internationally renowned artist as well, which people are tempted to go for.
Yeah,
But
it's
so
super.
yeah, I'll let you explain very quick. Yeah.
Yeah, well, the talent visa for artists is for everyone that is a performer of artistic work. It can be literature, music, any type of art. You need to show that you are indeed an artist, that you're performing, you have some contracts, and also that you're making money out of your artistic activity. Of course, you also need to show that you have a project in France. And yeah, as I mentioned, important to show that you're making money with your activity.
Although I think the threshold is therefore lower for artists, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's like 51% of the French minimum wage. So it's not that much, but it's important to keep it in mind.
And just because I've seen a few questions around that as well, sorry to, is it like, because artist is obviously is an umbrella term, there's a lot of things we can put in there. What are the limits of the things they can do? Like could they teach? Could they, because is there limits if they have an artist type of visa? Can they do pretty much any job they want if it's plus or minus related to
You
the
need
artistic
to
job?
relate. Yeah, you need to relate it in a way or another to your artistic activity. So
But you could
yes,
be teaching, like, I don't know, you're a guitar player.
yeah,
You can be teaching guitar or?
yes, you can do that, but you should also like show that you're like performing in some concerts or collaborating with a
Okay.
music school
Oh,
or
but
something
that
like
means it's quite broad then. It's very flexible in a way. Okay.
that. Yes, it
Okay.
is. It's all a way also of presenting it to the consulate to make sure that it goes through. And in terms of earnings, you can show that either you have some contracts, so you can be working as a freelancer or as an employee. It's also possible to have pay slips. So both are okay. For the internationally renowned talent visa, this is a completely different thing. It can be for artists, but it can also be for very famous people. It can be, I don't know, actors, CEOs of very big companies, but you need to show that you're very famous, that you have articles written
So
about you.
usually you don't want to do that. Yeah.
Mm,
I mean, if you can, it's probably better to aim for the artist anyway. It's easier,
yeah.
isn't it?
Yes, well, I don't say that it's complicated to get the other one. It's not difficult, but your application needs to be very solid. Like you have
Actually,
indications.
quick
Yeah.
quick questions. I'm saying one made me laugh. Sorry, it's like, is teaching a talent? So this one I liked, but another one was like, are makeup artists considered artists? So in a way, I think it's under the umbrella question of what is the limit of what is an artist, or
Yeah.
what is the definition of that?
It's tricky, and usually what I do when I have situations like this or when a client is not sure is that we start either with the entrepreneur, either with the artist, because the process is not so much different. And depending on the paperwork that we
Hmm.
receive, we see if the file is strong enough to submit as an artist. Otherwise, we can apply as the entrepreneur. For instance, the makeup artist, it can be maybe more an entrepreneur visa type.
Yes, this one is in a way more certain because there's
Mhm.
less uncertainties as well. And yeah, okay. Um, Actually, a very interesting question I'm saying, and this one you'll like for once. I'm not tricking you. Chara is asking, suppose you start a business, can you sponsor your own family to come assist you, or do you need to, so like basically, can that just be one person working and everyone else following? How does that work?
It depends on your visa type. I mentioned earlier the talent visa for company owners, so talent visas for entrepreneur, freelancers. If you have this one, you can bring your family with you. It's quite easy. They, of course, have to make their own visa application, but they will apply as family members of talent visa owners. This is valid for all the talent visas. If you have the classic entrepreneur visa, your family will need to make their own applications. So either as visitors or as employees or as freelancers if they want to be working as well. It depends a bit on each situation, but the only visa that allows you to bring your family with you is the talent ones.
Okay, okay. Um, Karen is asking a question I like because I think it can, in a way, if we broaden the question, may we discuss those who want to teach English to French university students? So, very often I've heard this question of people who want to teach in the public sector in a way, or also teach online, considering, for example, they have a master degree in English or like, they're highly skilled. So, it kind of touches base on a few topics at the same time.
Yeah. I've had a few teachers, and usually we go with the entrepreneur. This is
Okay.
the easiest for this type of activity. But if you want to work as an employee, we can apply for the working visa I mentioned at the beginning of the session. But this means that first you need to secure a job offer, that you check with the employer if he's willing to sponsor you. There's a lot of paperwork. If you have all these conditions, of course, you can apply for the employee, and that's a very good deal. But otherwise, the entrepreneur is a good option as well.
Okay. I'm seeing a question from Catherine Burrows. With bus coach license, can I work ASAP, or will there be a period of training? Well, actually, in this case, I don't know about visas, but for the one of the key things here is gonna be, it depends where you're from, because you're gonna need to exchange your driver license with the bus ability to drive buses on it. So one of the prerequisites is to have a license that's going to be valid in France for professional activity. And then in terms of visa, I suppose there's also a visa implication. Depends if you do that as self-employed, or if you want to find a job and then you need a sponsor, or there's probably a few options. But yeah, so I don't know. Can she works ASAP?
Well,
Depends what you call ASAP.
and we'll have to check the driving license.
Yeah, and yes, and so depends where you're from as well. Yeah, massively. Does it benefit your Profession Libérale application if your business is entirely dependent on living in France? Jennifer is asking that.
Yeah, it can, but it's not a condition. It's not mandatory. Like, of course, it will look better because you have a reason to be in France, and it's a solid project, but it's not mandatory. I've had clients that work completely remote, and they apply successfully for the entrepreneur. So don't be too difficult with yourself. We can find an easy way as well.
There's a good question as well. Are there specific requirements to be freelance in France if you're a EU citizen? Actually, this one's super easy. If you're EU citizen, well, you don't need anything. You know, it's like as if you're French. You're European, so you don't need a visa, you don't need a residence permit, and so it's as if you're French. Well, I don't need a permit to start my own business unless this is a regulated business I'm getting into. Like if you want to compete with me and be an insurance broker, you do need to meet some regulation standards. But otherwise, and if you want to compete with Eleonore, it's even worse. You need to have. But yes, no, unless it's a regulated industry, you do not need anything if you're European, because that grants you the right
Exactly.
work in France. And actually, I think the spouse of an EU citizen, even if that's a non-EU spouse, can also work in France, same as the EU spouse.
Yes, but you have to apply for the residency permit.
But
If
you do
you're
have to
not
apply for the
a
residence
French or
permit.
European, it's mandatory. And the good thing with the spouses of EU citizens is that you have a 5-year residency permit right away, and that you have the work authorization without having to be sponsored or apply for the work authorization, which is a huge advantage. Respect
Massive, yes. It's as if you're, well, yes, exactly. Because like the non-EU spouse, well, she does need to apply for residency, but otherwise has the same rights as the EU spouse almost. So it's a massive benefit, yeah. So, well, whoever is the non-EU spouse can buy the EU spouse a good meal this evening. So, also, Catherine's asking, my husband will have Irish citizenship when we move to France. Is that considered an EU citizenship that will help him work in France when he gets it, I suppose?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And if he doesn't have it before your move, it's okay. You can apply for another visa type, for instance, the visitor or any other. And then we can switch once he's in France and once he has his
if you don't have to wait. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, I was reading. So Doug is asking, I'm an EU citizen moving to France from the US. Will I to continue as a consultant for my current US employer, which is quite a standard situation, by the way, Doug, so no worries. Should I file for an LLC in the US or set up a company in France?
Well, I'll redirect him to my dear colleague Sandra, our corporate and tax attorney, so she can check with you what's more interesting for your situation.
I'll put the yourself member of the board on. You should have, because you'll become a French permanent resident, you should be paying social contributions to France. And also just because you want to avoid potentially things like the CSM tax and other stuff like this, you do want to have some sort of turnover to be making some. I'm not saying all, and that's why you need a consultation with a tax lawyer. But you want to be making some turnovers, part of that turnover at least in France. So you do need to be registered in France. I don't know if you need to have both, but you do need to have something in France, because otherwise you would be avoiding paying social taxes in France and social contributions, which at some point the tax authorities will see as kind of fraud. So you need to do that. And I know, because I tried and I asked the board, I remember back in the days, if I could have a business in the UK and work from France. They were like, no, you need to pay social taxes in France. So you can have both and split your income, but so that's a conversation you want to have with the tax lawyer. But you need to have a French one. This is certain, at least one. This is a good question. Do you need clients for the entrepreneur visa? Actually, or maybe it relates to a deeper question. Is it doable to start from zero, like to get to apply for an entrepreneur visa or Profession Libérale or whatever, but start from zero? Like, do not have clients, just an idea.
Yeah, absolutely. When you file for the visa application and for the opinion on your project, it's just a project. It's not something that is already existing. You do not need to have a current business, an existing one. You do not need to have already a company. It's just a project like, hey, if you give me the visa, that's what I'm going to do in France. So it's not necessary to have clients before applying for the visa. And then I do have some clients that, for instance, were working in the US for a company. They decide to move to France and they are not employees anymore. So they register themselves as freelancers and they work as consultants. So they do not have clients. They have one client, which is their former entity. And this is also acceptable. You do not need to have several different clients, as long as you meet all the other requirements for the entrepreneur residency.
Well, thank you for that, Eleonore. Actually a good question. Because you mentioned it's always possible to change from one visa type to another. There might be an exemption to that, because I'm saying the question. Someone who has, well, it's not technical. Someone who has a visa, a VLS-T, a visa long séjour temporaire, can they change that to a VLS-TS from France?
Yeah, that's not a renewable residency. So yes, I should have said a renewable visa. You need to be very careful when you submit your application at the consulate. I see a lot of people that thought that they were applying for the renewable visa and didn't. So in this case, it's very difficult. It's not impossible, but it is almost impossible to change it or to renew it.
Well, usually it's easier to just go back to your own country and reapply.
Yeah, it's easier. And reapply for the good visa and make sure that you don't do the same mistake twice, because it can be very costly. But we have other visa types, for instance, the working holiday visa that we were mentioning, that in theory you cannot change them, you cannot renew them. But we managed to do so with some prefectures, so it's a bit of luck. Sometimes we try. In theory, it's not possible if your visa is not renewable. In practice, sometimes, depending on the situations, we can help.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Spot on answer. Just to address the student situation, and just to be clear, because I've seen a few questions around that. So the student visa, by definition, I suppose, can be renewed or extended up to a certain point. Is there a limit to that?
Be careful with the student visa. Yeah, well, when you renew your student visa, you need to meet the requirements of the student visa. So be a student going to classes, because they will check if you need to be physically, if it's needed that you are physically in France. For instance, I had a client one time that was enrolled in online courses, and he didn't get his visa renewed because he didn't need to be in France. You need to show that you pass your exams, that you are following the classes. All this is very important. And as long as you meet those conditions, you can renew it until you get your degree, or like if you want to continue studying, it's okay. But you always need to show that you have been
Well, you need
Assistant.
to be a real student. Yeah.
Yeah, and also be careful if you jump from one subject to another. Like the prefecture likes to see that there is some coherence in your project. It's okay to change direction, but you need to explain why and to justify it a little bit. And once you finish your studies, you can apply for the job seeker residency, which is a 1 year residency permit that allows you to work either as an employee or as a freelance without having to apply for the working authorization if you're an employee, unless you secure your dream job and you want to change your visa
So
type.
this is the thing they call the RECE, like recherche d'emploi, création d'entreprise.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. It's for people that just finished their studies in France and are looking for a first job opportunity. So you can apply for
So and
jobs.
that's 1 year basically then.
Yeah, it's 1 year.
Okay. Okay. Well, it's very good. Okay. I'm seeing a question. I think this one could illustrate one of the things you've said from Gordon. Hi, Gordon. I have a PhD in mechanical engineering. Seems very likely I would qualify for the Passeport talent, or is approval more on a case-by-case basis?
It depends on your working contract. What do you want to do? Do you want to be a company owner? In this case, we prepare the business plan, we apply for the opinion and all of this. Are you going to be an employee? In this case, you need to secure a job offer and have a working contract. We do not need to apply for the work authorization if your salary meets the requirements, but it depends a little bit on your project.
But you always, I mean, in a way, you kind of always need, I mean, a sponsor. I mean, it's not necessarily like an employer. Like you need to have secured some sort of a job to, don't you? I mean,
Either
unless
with,
you're self-employed, obviously, but yeah.
yeah, one or the other.
Okay. But basically, what I'm saying is, it is not doable to come to France and move to France to look for a job, whatever you're doing, unless, again, unless you want to set up a business and you've done a business plan about that. But otherwise, if you want to be job seeking, there's no visa for that apart from the visitor visa. But then you need to change the visa type, which is so might not be the easiest way. But to keep it simple, if you want to move to France and have work authorization, you need to have a job. You cannot move to France to hunt for a job. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is correct, but it all depends on the situations
No,
because,
no, of course. Yeah.
but it's important to know where you're going, of course.
Yeah. Um, Ida is asking, I work remotely as a planning consultant with all clients based in the UK. My partner and myself both have sufficient funds to apply for a VLST as a VLS-TS. Would this be, well, would the VLS-TS be the best route? Yeah.
Well, VLS-TS is a big family, and inside that you have a lot of different categories and a lot of different options. In your case, maybe you could consider the entrepreneur or the talent for company owners, or even the visitor, depending on if you're planning to be working in France or not.
Okay. Good, good. Oh, this one. I'm Dutch and American, which means you're European. How is it to work in France? So very
Well,
simple. You're European.
exactly. You don't have to apply for any type of authorizations. You don't need a sponsorship or anything.
Brilliant.
Super easy.
Oh, well, this question is interesting. I'll give you a second wild card if you don't want to address this one. I plan to work remotely as an independent contractor for my former employer. I suppose is abroad, is not in France. Is there a risk of this being considered disguised employment, so I cannot be an entrepreneur?
Yeah, it's a tricky one as well because if you want to use the visitor, you cannot be working in France, no links with the French labor markets, no French
But I think
contract.
it's mentioning the entrepreneur one.
Oh, with the entrepreneur, yes, 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 it's doable. The employer is, yeah, it's
Yeah,
doable.
he wants to be a consultant for his employer, so be
Yeah,
self-employed, like set up a business.
yeah, I've had that situation before. This is okay. Yes.
Brilliant, brilliant. Um, well, just a very quick one. Daniel's asking what are the requirements for a video editor like me to satisfy the micro entrepreneur. I'd say same as everyone. Set up a business, apply for business type of visa, maybe Passeport Talent, maybe the entrepreneur one, I think.
Get the authorizations, do the paperwork, start working. Yeah.
Simple. Okay, straightforward. Um, what if I want to come to France from America and start a remote business from France? Well, that wasn't planned, we could say. So, I suppose it's a visitor visa. Don't know.
Well, if you start the business in France, maybe it's the entrepreneur. It depends a bit on your project.
Yeah, it depends.
Mm.
Jennifer is asking, can you touch on the medical visa?
Oof.
That it depends what you call medical visa.
Yeah, it's the new one, I think. It's for medical professions. It's
Oh,
not only doctors, but also people working in pharmacies or that are doing any type of work related to the medical sector. It's quite new, so we do not
well,
have a lot of
yesterday.
information yet. Yes, exactly. So we have we
Well,
need some
get in
time
touch
to
with
see a bit.
Eleonore.
Yeah,
That's how you find out.
so
And by
those
the
are.
way, I didn't say that. Again, after this session, I'll send an email to all the attendees, sharing Eleonore's details. Obviously, for those of you who want to get in touch with her, you should get that by tomorrow, French time. So take your day off, but tomorrow you'll get you'll get a few emails, Eleonore, I think. Okay. Okay, I'm trying to read some of the questions. Bonjour and bonsoir. Hello, Dean. Thank you both. What is the percentage tax on remote work for retirees American living in France? I heard it's around 25% of monthly income. No, no. So there is, well, that is a bit of a vague question in a way. But what we can say is, I think there is a tax treaty between France and the US which prevents double taxation. So something is either taxed in the US or in France, but cannot be taxed on both hands. And then if it's taxable in France, well, usually if you're a tax resident here, you're supposed to be paying in France. It means you do a refund in the US, or you don't have to pay taxes in the US. But then you tax according to your tax band as per any country's tax regulations. You pay according to how much you're making. There is one exemption for Americans because we have a very favorable treaty for retirees, where any kind of pension income is not tax liable in France. It needs to be reported, but it's not tax liable. But I think it's yet another reason to get in touch with Sandra, I suppose. Okay. Okay, so a follow-up on the tax on remote work. Should I? Okay, well, Dean, maybe get in touch. We'll enter you over email. That's going to be easy. Steve is asking, I, Fab, Eleonore, and Nani, if we were to buy an existing business, well, okay, interesting one. What level of net profit should we be looking for to satisfy the work visa?
The threshold is the French minimum wage. So that's
roughly.
yeah. Per year it should be around 18,000 gross.
You're good at math? Good?
I wouldn't say that.
And well, this is before the glasses of wine she'll have afterwards. And then she improves. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. So, okay. So 18,000 is the net you should pull out basically, or be able to pull out from the business?
Yeah, in a year.
Is it per person?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Per person, unless your family member is not an entrepreneur as well, but has a family member residency permit.
Okay.
If you have the talent visa, which might be a good option since you were mentioning that you were purchasing an existing business. So maybe the investments will already be there and the main applicant can apply for the talent entrepreneur and the other as family members. So you don't have to show that you make the amount twice.
Okay. A question from Laura Catherine, I think. I think we've addressed this one, but maybe you can just clear that out. What if you're in France on a visit visa and get a job offer from a French employer? So you mentioned this one, the ability to...
Yes, we can change your status from and switch from visitor to the employee residency permits. What's important is that once you have the job offer secured, your employer needs to apply for the working authorization. Either he does that or we can do it on his behalf, but it's a lot of paperwork. You need to take into account that it's a minimum of 2-3 months before you are able to start working.
Yes, there's a bit of a delay. Okay. Very good question from Mark. And because we didn't address this particular topic. Can my current UK employer offer me a French work contract, permis de travail, by using the Portage Salarial in France?
Yes, that's something that is possible, and we do work with some situations like this. The Portage Salarial is like the umbrella company that will employ you from
It's
France.
basically you're being employed through a proxy company. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's definitely possible. Yes.
Another thing that honestly on the insurance side I hate dealing with, but I'll mention anyway. There is also the possibility to have what they call entreprise sans établissement en France. So basically, a foreign company can create just a SIRET number, which is the French registration number for businesses in France. So basically, as no business, just a declaration number, if you like. And then you can be employed through this structure who doesn't exist again. And therefore, you can be directly employed by your employer in France through that scheme. I don't like dealing with that, so I'm honest with it. But just so you know, it also exists. So you can have the portage salarial, or there is also this structure that exists to have your employer directly hire you. Yeah, I don't know, Eleonore, if you've dealt with that as well, or
Yeah, we've seen that. Yes, and there are a lot of
do you don't like it like me, or
yeah, because it's always tricky to understand exactly what will be the situation, because very often either the employee or the employer don't know exactly how the contract will look like, and we have a lot of different visa options for people that are detached or that work or not for a French company.
because
So
there is a visa for that. Oh, you're right, actually. Yeah, detached
we
workers.
have this, we have a lot of visas, and we like to put situations in boxes, and those situations cannot fit easily in a box. So
Very important it also, then the employer all of the sudden who is not a French employer, that's why usually working through proxy like the portage salarial is often better, because like all of the sudden your, let's say, British or American employer has to abide by French labor regulations. It means having a group health insurance policy, a group loss of income policy, and every single thing that the French labor market requires from a French employer, which obviously your foreign employer, like again British, American, whatever, is not aware of. And all of a sudden, all of those constraints and regulations fall onto the employer because you're technically a French employee. So it's usually best to work through the proxy that is the portage salarial, just to avoid having to deal with those things directly. And sometimes there are also other routes and options which might be a bit easier. Okay, Coffee is asking how many hours was that again? I think it was in reference to being a student. That was basically part-time.
part-time, yeah.
Yeah. So half the time. What age are you able to work on your student visa? Suppose minimum?
Yeah, I imagine it's 18.
Yeah. Well. When I was a kid, I used to work on a crop field. I was
Don't say
16, so
that.
I know you can work at 16 in France, but I don't know if you'd be a student in no,
Well,
no.
at 16, you don't have a student visa.
Yeah,
You have
well, so
other type of visas
here
for
goes your
people.
answer. So you have to be a major, which is 18 then.
Mhm.
An adult, sorry. Okay, so we're almost up. Let's see what kind of questions. I'll try to address a quick couple questions because I think Eleanor's brain is gonna burst very soon. Um, Paige is asking, does creating business after getting visa apply to entrepreneur self-employed? Okay, so in terms of the timeline, okay, so does creating the business after getting the visa apply to entrepreneur self-employed? It's kind of all the same, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. So you see, very efficient answer. You have some German blood.
No.
That's the Belgian blood. Um, okay, let's try to get a quick one started. Sorry, I'm scrolling through the questions to find some quick ones. Do you get work permit after having lived here for 5 years? From Samantha.
Yeah, you can apply for the carte de résidence, so 10-year residency permits, provided that you lived in France for 5 years, that you fill the conditions. And in this case, with the 10-year residency permit, you will have the right to work. Yes.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, Samantha, okay, ask the question twice. With the visa, Steve, and we'll try to get this the last question. Steve is asking, would the visa need to be renewed yearly?
It depends on the visa that you get. A lot of them are pluriannual, so it can go up to 4 or 5 years, even 10 in the residency carte de résident, 10-year residency permit. So it depends on your visa type. But the first visa that you will get cannot be more than a year. So in this case, you will need to renew it. And then depending on your situation and what you have, maybe you will have a 2-year card, and then 3, and then 5. Yeah.
So, basically, you renew every time it's supposed to expire, basically, and until you get to the carte de résident permanent that you've mentioned, the 10 years one. Okay. Or if you're up for an adventure after 5 years, you can try to apply for citizenship.
Yeah.
Well, you never know. Okay, one last question, because I really think this one is super. Never saw it, so I think it's interesting. Can you establish a foundation and an association 1901 with a profession libérale visa, for example?
Yes, you could do that.
Is there a limit to the kind of business schemes, basically, I think?
No. You can, as long as, well, you are working as a freelancer or someone that is, working for himself, that could be accepted. Then it's a question of seeing how you get remunerated and how much. But yeah, I don't see any blockers.
Okay. Well, that's it for this evening. Thank you so much, Eleonore. We've bombarded you with questions. You've been fabulous. I'm a bit cheeky, sorry. You've answered almost 100 questions live, so that was quite a lot. Thank you so much. It's been very great advice. Thank you, everyone, for watching this, whether you're watching live or on the replay. We're gonna publish this on our YouTube channel, so you can watch this again if you'd like. By tomorrow, we'll send you a follow-up email so that you can get in touch with Nani if you'd like, with us, with Eleonore and her team. Ask any questions. And thank you so much for your support. Eleonore, thanks again. No, for the apéro.
Thank you, Fabien, for inviting me. Thank you,
Merci
everyone.
beaucoup. Thank you, everyone. See you soon in France. Bye.